the school here. So that's really quite a small portion of students who are at the school. We have seen yesterday, especially when they were threatening to suspend the students who were on the encampment, we did see hundreds of more students circulating and marching on the campus there. Those were protesters, but not necessarily people who were willing to get suspended, willing to get expelled for participating in the encampment. And they were saying they were there to support students who they agreed with, and they agreed in the message that they were fighting for here. But of course, a lot of the students here, a large amount of the students here, just trying to get through finals week. And we've really talked to a lot of seniors here who are hoping that this doesn't cancel graduation, because the graduation is supposed to be on the same lawn where that encampment was, or encampment is. And, it's 2024. 4 years ago, when most of the senior class were graduating high school, it was spring 2020, where they didn't really have a graduation either. So they were definitely hoping not to. Sorry, I'm looking around to make sure the police aren't coming in behind me here, which they're not at this point. So a lot of people hope this doesn't interfere with their graduation. And of course, there is a large amount of students, many of them Jewish students, who have not felt safe on campus, not only for the past 2 weeks where this has been going on, but people said they haven't felt safe really for the past several months, since October 7th, where there have been large demonstrations at Columbia for months. This was the culmination of all that, but they have been going on for large months, and there are a lot of Jewish students who feel that their messaging is anti-Semitic, is discriminatory, and they feel that the school has not done their duty of creating a safe environment, and they think that the university and the administration has not handled it correctly at this moment, and this is why you're seeing what you're seeing today.
Let's recap what's been going on today. Recapping, earlier this morning, a group of students broke into Hamilton Hall, smashing through glass, bursting in. Then they barricaded the doors, and then they were getting food and other things being pulled up to them by ropes and pulleys. They've been there all day long. At about 6 o'clock this evening, Mayor Adams held a press conference with the police commissioner and other city officials, and we see some lights and sirens on vehicles coming through there today. We don't necessarily know what that means, but there is a certain tone of urgency that we're looking at. So Mayor Adams held this press conference, and he basically said very clearly everyone should clear out. He even said parents should call their kids and tell them to get out of the area. He clearly was signaling that something might be happening. And of course, he also said that we hadn't heard. We said, we haven't heard from Columbia. They're the ones who are going to give us the cue to come in. So you got the impression that the mayor was signaling strongly, folks, something is going to happen soon. We would like you to leave, not just Hamilton Hall, but the campus itself, because he was afraid, he didn't want anyone getting caught up in a potential happening, whatever that happens to be. And right now, Ali Bauman is outside across the street from the campus, and we're staring at pictures of people who are still protesting. Ali, I guess the question is now, this just becomes sort of a waiting game as to when the NYPD may or may not want to act, right?
It's definitely a waiting game. It's a waiting game of when the NYPD wants to interact, but more importantly, as you noted, it's a waiting game of if the university asks the NYPD to interact, because this is private property. The NYPD, unless there's a huge emergency, unless someone there's imminent danger on campus, the NYPD can't enter without permission, without the request of the university, because it's private property here. So we don't know if the university administration has asked the NYPD yet to enter campus. It certainly seems like the NYPD is out here and ready to respond if that does happen, if it hasn't already. And it is a waiting game, because it's all building, and we're not quite sure when it's going to play out or how.
We've been speaking. We've been watching a live shot. It's hard for me to tell what street this exactly is. It looks like it's just outside the campus. But there is a growing contingent of NYPD officers who are wearing helmets like this officer right here, and they are gathering, and it certainly gives you the impression that they may be ready to move in. Now, we can speculate all we want, but they still have to get permission from Columbia, and they hold all the cards. And you can see on this officer's hip those are those plastic ties which were used, and there are some more of them, which were used earlier in the week to make mass arrests on the campus. So it gives you the impression that that possibility could be happening soon, but once again, this is only speculation. The mayor has made it very clear. There are outside professional agitators, likely inside Hamilton Hall. One more thing. Mayor was specifically asked, and his officials were specifically asked, do you know how many agitators are inside that particular building? And they said no. One thing they did, they killed the cameras. They broke the cameras, and that's a real good sign that you're dealing with people that have negative intentions. And that's why the NYPD has to be so careful. Now, Allie, I know it's hard for you to see a lot, but my suspicion would be before they started sending in officers, they might even put up a drone so they get a view, a better view into windows. But of course, Allie, that would be something that you could see right away if there was a drone floating around, correct?
Well, no, yes, and there have been drones flying around. The police have had drones here for the past 2 weeks or so, on and off at night especially, so they can get a sense of what's happening on and around campus. And we have seen at least 2 police drones out here tonight on our side of campus. I'm not even sure if they're out the other side of campus as well. We're on the side that's closer to that building that they're occupying, so this would probably be where they would have the drones for seeing that, but we have seen at least 2. And I also want to point something else out. You made a good point about the agitators being on campus, not knowing how many outside agitators on campus. I mean, for the past 2 weeks, yes, the university has had all students show their identification in order to get in on campus, but when they made their first round of arrests the first time, those students who were arrested were suspended, and we had seen some of those students return to campus to the encampment, so they were not allowed to come back to on campus. We saw them, some of them at least, who had been suspended back on campus. So even though those universities' rules, clearly people are finding ways to get on campus when they're not supposed to be, and that is for suspended students that we've seen. So, you know, of course, it's possible that outside agitators could have gotten past that same security measure as well. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it's got to be so frustrating and difficult to sort of keep track. Now, just to set the scene very carefully for people, we're looking, I believe, I don't know if you can see the screen we're looking at, but it looks like a series of protesters who are outside the campus. Allie, and I know you're not inside the campus, but what does the scene look like? It has been a tent encampment for the better part of a week. Are people walking around? Are they just merely protesting? What is the sense you get from what would be going on inside the campus? Well, so I personally haven't been on the campus so far today. The last time I was personally on campus was yesterday. We've been seeing images coming out from inside the campus today. The encampment has still been there, last that we were able to see on the lawn there, where there were still some students there. And in terms of the building that some of these students have taken over, in a sense, I mean, the windows are broken. They have banners hanging from the windows there. They've literally barricaded the doors with furniture that they've seemed to tie together in front of the doors there, so that people, you know, making it more difficult for people to get on, in a sense. And as you had been mentioning, they were getting supplies brought up to them with a pulley system that they had with ropes through the windows, and people bringing supplies. We did see out here where, you know, there's the gate out here, but we did see out here people passing supplies through, just onto campus from outside through the gates, passing water bottles and whatnot through the campus gates here. So that's a situation that lasted. We know it. That's happening on the campus here. We were seeing images tonight of the protesters outside of Hamilton Hall there, locking arms in a sense as well, which, you know, we saw yesterday outside the encampment with the students and faculty who were trying to protect the encampment there when the administration had said that they had a 2 p.m. deadline to clear it out, otherwise they were going to be suspended. They didn't clear it out yesterday, and it's some students are asking, you know, the administration has made these threats, has said, you know, they're going to do something, and has set these deadlines and have yet to carry out on the deadline. So some are waiting to see if they carry out on it tonight. Yeah, and you know, another point, Allie, from that press conference today, which we learned so much, one of the speakers mentioned that these so-called outside agitators, they weren't just worried about them being here on the campus at Columbia. They were, A, worried about agitators being on other campuses, possibly in New York, but they were almost certainly concerned about whatever this movement is, and then they didn't give an indication of a name or specific names of people involved in the movement, but they said whatever this movement is, they're concerned about it also spreading across the country.
which says to me, and once again, we are only speculating here, folks, but it says to me that this reaction we're seeing tonight in New York might be something we could see at other campuses. And Allie, you make a great point. The university is in a difficult position because on the one hand, if they go in, everyone says, oh, look what you did, these are young kids. On the other hand, if they don't, something like today could happen. Breaking things, busting in, someone might get hurt. And I would imagine over the last week or so, you've gotten a really good sense of just what a difficult position the administration of Columbia and these other schools are in, correct?
Absolutely, and I think that, we already are seeing it spread across the country, right? I mean, we've been seeing similar demonstrations at dozens of universities across the country, and in some cases have had a more aggressive police response than we've seen here at Columbia. I mean, last time the police went in, just about 2 weeks or so ago at this point, the police said the protesters complied, and they were able to take them into arrest and into custody without any issue. And even the protesters themselves said that the police in that instance were not aggressive, that they were, did not overstep their authority in some cases. So, when you have protesters saying even the police behaved, I mean, I think that that's a significant statement from them as well, that it was very peaceful here in that interaction as compared to some of the other campuses that we've seen images of some more violent skirmishes between police and protesters here. So I think that, Columbia has definitely been a model for protesters across the country, following Columbia's lead here, and perhaps law enforcement as well, maybe following the law enforcement of the NYPD's lead here as well.
This is another issue that you're bringing up right now. Columbia, Fordham, in the 1960s, they were at the forefront of campus protest. And that was always considered a badge of honor. Off the top of my head, I cannot remember how long they held on to some of the halls I remember the two campuses being Fordham and Columbia, and they held on to those, whatever they took over, for a significant period of time. And I can't say that the police were put in this position. So it's 50 years later, things have changed, the issues have certainly changed. That was the Vietnam War. There were also campus issues involved. This is much more politically thorny for everyone because you have two sides of people, some who are arguing that they're the victims of anti-Semitism, others who are saying that the Palestinians are the victims. And then, of course, the third factor is that you have these students who just don't feel safe on campus. And Allie, I have to ask you, you've spoken to a lot of these students. Did anyone come out after the mayor's press conference and say, hey, we got a warning? And I'm not talking about coming out of Hamilton Hall, I'm talking about in the campus area. Did anyone say, hey, we're getting out of here, we're heeding the mayor's call, maybe it's time we should just get away from this?
I didn't personally see any students after the mayor's press conference. I did see several before that happened. That press conference was around 6 o'clock or so, and a little bit earlier in the evening we did see students coming in, because this right now is the only entrance on campus where students who live here can go in and out. We did see some students with those really big moving rolly bins coming out. I stopped one of them and I asked, what they were doing. It was a freshman girl who said that she's, move out date is supposed to be May 10th. That's just about 2 weeks from now, and she was planning to move out on May 10th. But after what happened, in the past couple of days, in talking to her parents, they wanted her to come home earlier more and more. And then last night was kind of the final straw for her and her parents as well, where they decided to move out. They decided that she should move out early and come home early because it was just getting too intense. And she told me that would make her parents feel more comfortable if she left now. So we saw at least one student moving out. It appeared that there were some others that were moving boxes out as well. And since classes have been remote for the past week or so, some of the final exams are going to be able to be taken remotely. It has gotten quieter on campus here. A lot of people have gone home, especially for the holiday of Passover, where a lot of Jewish students went home because they didn't want to be, A, they didn't feel safe here, or B, they didn't want to be spending Passover here in this environment. So we have seen it getting quieter, but then today we did see, for the first time I had seen, some students actually moving out.
Allie, I just got some updated information. We're getting a Morningside campus alert. This appears to be from the Office of Emergency Management, I think. And it says, shelter in place for your safety due to heightened activity on the Morningside campus. Non-compliance may result in disciplinary action. Avoid the area until further notice. So, Allie, this just appears to be another situation where the campus is giving you all the indications that something may just be happening. Let's just update you right now and reset here on the situation. Police, as you can see, appear to be getting ready, perhaps, to move in on the campus and on Hamilton Hall, which is being held by students right now. We've seen in the last half hour or so this line of officers just grow, and all the indications are police may be waiting for the cue from Columbia to be allowed to go in and perhaps clear Hamilton Hall of what they've described as having some professional agitators inside. And that would mean that they would have to be prepared really for anything, and that's why they would be in what the terminology is riot gear. But once again, here comes another wave of officers. They're concerned for a lot of reasons, and right now they're moving in another direction. I'm not sure what direction that is, so it's not clear if they're moving in right now. But they have a lot of reasons to be concerned. The people who took over Hamilton Hall barricaded the doors if they were going to make their way in. If they were going to make their way in, they'd have to make their way in through barricades to start with. Joining us now on the phone is Richard Esposito, and he is one of our criminal analysts here at CBS News. And Richard, I know you have a lot of experience in situations, maybe not precisely like this, but certainly when police officers are put in these situations. What are your first impressions as what you've seen happening tonight? Well,
goes up at, if you look up at CUNY, you're seeing intersections being blocked. You're seeing people confronting police. You're seeing people looking to pick a fight. At Columbia, the police are saying there are professional agitators. There's no doubt there are people like that mixed in with peaceful people. So now you've shown the video. Police are lining up outside the university. And I expect that by later tonight, they're going to have to move in. No one wants to do that. It makes the police the objects. You've seen this in past protests. The police become an easy target. It makes good video. The protesters or the violent protesters get to amplify their message.
And from the pictures, and I don't know if you're seeing our pictures right now, but what I'm seeing right now is really a massive force of NYPD officers. What do they have to be concerned about? I was just describing Hamilton Hall, where the students and apparently outside agitators, professionals, have taken over. The doors are barricaded. From what we understand, the cameras have been turned off. Some of these students were bringing in shields. What could the NYPD face when they go in there?
Well, one of the reasons you're seeing a massive amount of NYPD officers is that is the best way to blanket something and keep violence to a minimum. You have an overwhelming amount of people, and that enables you to pull people out as peacefully as possible. Remember, we're going to see video that's one-sided. It's going to come out on live streams, and it's going to show when a cop raises his hand and make it look like the cop's doing something bad. It's going to show when a cop pushes someone to the ground and suggests that that's wrong. We saw video like that during the George Floyd protest, and almost invariably there was more video. And the video showed when an officer drew a gun, the reason was someone had hit another officer on the head with a fire extinguisher. So we're going to see things like that, and the massive display is what the police do to try and keep it calm. I don't think you're going to see them storm the barricades, but people will come toward police. We're starting to see that kind of behavior, and then police are forced to act. You'll see them backing up as much as they can, but they're going to have to at some point get them out of that building.
And you also get the impression that when they go in there, if and when we assume they are going to go in, that they will be facing perhaps some hostility from these so-called professional agitators, but perhaps there'll be students just sitting there. How difficult is it for a law enforcement officer going into that situation, distinguishing from people who are being passive to those who may be ready to strike?
That's a very good point, and it's a tricky thing. That's where the bosses come into play and try and guide the officers. That's where good intelligence comes into play. You can be sure there are pictures of people who are, if there are known agitators, there are pictures of those. And police will try to single them out and cut them out of the herd, so to speak. If there are peaceful people, they might be shouting and screaming, though they're peaceful, and that becomes confusing. Now, what's going on now is the police are waiting. We're told that at some point Columbia... why you're seeing this going on now. But if you see your video from up at Convent Avenue and 139th, 140th Street, those people are blocking traffic and engaging in actions on public streets. There, the New York City Police Department will act as soon as they feel circumstances warrant. Different situation.
Richard, in the few seconds that we have left, do you have any sense from the urgency of these pictures of when this could be happening? I know that's the hardest question in the world. We've only got about 15 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's going to be later tonight.
So you think that they're just gathering here, but this doesn't look imminent to you?
No.
Why is that? You got 10 more seconds.
I don't think it's imminent because I believe they have to wait for the letter from Columbia, and that will be the timing element, and it's likely to be later rather than sooner. I'm told right now.
All right,
Richard, all evolving.
Richard Esposito, law enforcement analyst for CBS 2. We really appreciate it. Once again, updating our top story, waiting for police action, possibly on Hamilton Hall at the Columbia University campus. We will keep you updated on our streaming channel, cbsnewyork.com. Tune over there for continuing coverage. Recapping our top story tonight. Right now, police seem to be ready or poised to take action on the Columbia University campus. We can tell you in the last hour or so, we've been seeing a steady stream of officers making their way in what you would call riot gear. I don't know if that's the exact precise wording, but they have helmets on, they have batons, they have shields. They appear ready to engage if they need to. And the reason why they may need to is because the police commissioner earlier this evening said that they are concerned about professional agitators who may be among the students, particularly in Hamilton Hall, which was taken over by students earlier today and taken over in a forceful fashion. They smashed doors when they got in there. They barricaded the doors. Throughout the day, they appeared to be getting food and other items being pulled up to them by ropes and pulleys. And they appeared to be ready for perhaps a confrontation. Other people said some were carrying shields themselves. So this is a very precarious situation for police officers. Our criminal law enforcement analyst, Richard Esposito, who was speaking just a few moments ago to me, was saying that while something could be happening, he doesn't think it's imminent. Let's tell you what we're looking at right now. These are live pictures. I can't tell you what door that is or what hall that is, but it appears that police officers are engaging with people, and I can see what appears to be students at the door there. So conversations have been ongoing, and this is what we heard from the mayor and the police commissioner earlier today, that Columbia University has been continually talking to these students, presumably in Hamilton Hall. It didn't give any indication that Columbia was willing to give in to any of their demands, many of which involved Columbia divesting from Israel. But this situation has been growing by really the minute. In the last half hour or so, Ali Bauman is outside Columbia's campus, and she's been keeping an eye on this, and she may be with us now. I don't know. Okay, Ali's not with us right now. But once again, let's take a look at this. A continual stream of officers in the area of the campus. And in addition to the riot gear, they also have, I guess, what you would call, they call them bracelets sometimes, plastic bracelets, and that would be used in the event of some sort of mass arrest. We saw that earlier, about a week earlier, when they cleared the campus And then when students started coming back on the campus, Columbia decided that it was better just to let them back on. Now, it's not clear whether they regret that right now, but it's been a very difficult situation for the Columbia campus, for the Columbia administrators, because on the one hand, as we pointed out, they sometimes have to respond forcefully because some students are feeling threatened. But on the other hand, these are students. Many of them, most of them are just college students who want to give their free speech rights. And they're doing what many would say is something time immemorial on college campuses, which is speaking out on a political issue. People on the other side of the issue say that they've been threatening, using phrases that are threatening. So right now we see the police officers are continuing to gather, and CBS 2's Ali Bauman is joining us again. Ali, are you seeing it? I guess from your point of view, you're not really seeing much, right?
Well, you know, in the past 5 minutes or so after we last spoke, I did see one of the police drones go up in the air as well. It was flying towards the campus. I lost sight of it at the moment, but it was flying kind of towards the campus here. I mean, you can see there are a couple hundred protesters behind me right outside the campus gates here where we are at 116th and Amsterdam, which is on the side of the Columbia University campus that is closest to Hamilton Hall, which is where those students have broken into overnight and have been occupying, you know, for the past over 12 hours at this point. So, you know, in the past few hours, we've seen the NYPD presence here significantly grow. We've seen officers coming with their helmets, with their zip ties towards campus. I have not personally seen the officers entering campus yet. I'm not sure if you're able to see that on your feed on the other side of campus there. I think, you know, in the past several hours, police have shut down both Amsterdam and Broadway, which are the two avenues that are, you know, the two opposite sides of adjacent to the campuses here. They've shut it down to traffic. Several hours ago, they put in a lot of barricades all around here. So they are trying to seemingly to try to get the area as quiet as possible. On this side, I know we have, as I'm saying, you know, several protesters here. I don't believe there are nearly as many protesters, if any, on the other side. They were there earlier and they had marched on, you know, a couple hours ago at this point here. So we're hearing that the police are waiting at the direction of Columbia University to enter campus. We haven't seen them actually go on campus yet, but they certainly seem to be prepared to do so.
I can tell you from what I've seen, Ali, you were saying what we might be seeing in the video that we were showing a little earlier was what appeared to be police officers engaging with students at a door. I can't tell you what street it was on. I can't tell you what door it was, but they were engaging. The conversation was ongoing. And, you know, you made this point earlier, Ali, that it is very difficult for the administration to decide when to make this move. And during the press conference, we heard repeatedly over and over again city officials saying that the dialogue continues, almost as if they feel like, oh, we say a little more and they're going to change their minds. But you would get the sense, and since you've been there all week, you certainly know, that these students, these protesters have been very single-minded, and they really haven't been of a mind to say, okay, yeah, we'll give into your demands, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the protesters have said from the start they are not going to leave until the university agrees to divest from companies that do business with Israel. And the university has said, well, something is happening here behind me. Sorry to interrupt, but it appears that at this point protesters are all of a sudden moving in several different directions. I'm not sure what has just happened that's made them do that. They're seeming to run away from the gates here where we are. I'm not sure what the reason is. They're going both north and south here on Amsterdam. This group has been here for almost all day at this point. I mean, it's grown in the past couple hours, but people have been out here since this afternoon at least. And again, as I've been saying, this is the side that's closest to Hamilton Hall, so I'm not sure if from this side the students are able to see if anything is happening on campus. I cannot see through the gates if anything is happening on campus from this area right here, but all of a sudden in the past minute or so, the large group has suddenly started to move in a sense. And,
yeah.
And to your point, as you were saying earlier, you know, I think that the university and the administration here has definitely struggled with how to respond to this in the past 2 weeks because, you know, Columbia historically for decades has been a university that really prides itself on student activism. It has not just prided itself, it's advertised itself as a school that is for students who are interested in that kind of social justice work and that kind of, you know, activation, or sorry, social activism work. And so, you know, they've said repeatedly that they don't want to infringe on students' right to protest, and I think that we saw there had been somewhat of a negative response to the administration when something is happening. I'm hearing something being dragged in.
Allie, I just want to interrupt you for a second because we want to take, Allie, we want to take a different camera view. Alicia Reed is joining us live from a different location. And Alicia, perhaps you're able to tell us what you're seeing and what's going on, if anything. Alicia?
Yeah, absolutely, Dick. So it's a very tight squeeze over here, but what you're looking at right now is hundreds of NYPD officers in riot gear. We're on 114th, right off of Broadway, and police have been barricading the area for hours now.
Alicia,
so initially,
I just got to break in.
we were
Alicia?
over by 116th and Broadway.
Yeah, right now we're seeing some sort of action break out. I don't know if Allie is still there because there appears to be some scuffling going on. It's not clear if police officers are there. Allie, can you see anything? All right, Allie may have had to get away from the camera, but it certainly looks right now that there's some sort of disturbance going on. The barricades have been broken. The students are running in different directions. And it's just hard to make out what's going on right now. Something happened with about 5 minutes ago. The protesters started to move. It didn't seem from what we were watching that the police were moving the protesters. That would have been an indication. Perhaps they were moving them. But they started to move, perhaps to something they heard or they saw. And it still looks right now, well, now it looks like there is some activity. Police are moving the barricades back after they apparently were knocked out by protesters, but they don't seem to be entangling themselves with the protesters. All right, Allie, what are you seeing right now?
Can you hear me right now, Dick?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So right now we see several dozen riot cops essentially walking up north on Amsterdam. That's where it seems that the police have cleared the barricades out. So I don't know if you can see them. They have the shields down, the zip ties in hand, and they appear to be, you know, heading right towards campus. So I'm not sure if the police necessarily moved the protesters out so that they could get in, but this line of demonstrators has just appeared here in the past minute or so behind us here. The protesters, as you can imagine, are jeering and are yelling at them. They do seem to somewhat be moving out of their way, although I do see that there are some protesters at least still standing in front of the gates here. So right now it seems to be somewhat of a standoff. You have, you know, the protesters here. The protesters here on one side, the police here on this side, and let me clarify, the protesters who are outside the campus where we are. So these are not the protesters who are the ones that they would assume, you know, seemingly be going after because they're not on campus at the moment. These ones out here, the ones inside, I'm not sure what's happening with them there. But right now we see police definitely, you know, establishing a perimeter.
Yeah, and the one thing we really haven't seen, we weren't up close obviously, but I didn't see any great violence or interaction between police and protesters. The barricades broke, people sprinted back and forth. There might have been a little scuffling, a little pushing and shoving, but right about now, as you pointed out, it looks like, at least in this one location, I don't know if the word stable is a fair way to describe what we've just seen, but certainly now it's seeming to stabilize, as before it was a little more chaotic. Just how close are you to the scene of where the barricades were broken?
I mean, I'm standing right in front of the camera. I have my hand on a barricade right now, so I'm near some of the barricades at least. The barricades that were broken, you know, a couple yards away from them at this point. Again, I'm not sure if it was the police that broke them. It would seem so because now the police are here, and it may be that they're trying to make their way inside, but that I'm just speculating. And here, right now, the police are actually, yes, turning towards the campus, as we can see them, and it's NYPD officers. There are actually some FDNY jackets in that group there as well, and some seem to be walking towards the campus gates. So we'll be seeing right now if they're going to be going inside. Some protesters are now running towards them as well here. I don't know if I'm standing in the camera's view here. But you know, when the NYPD 2 weeks ago went into.
Ali, let me just tell you something we've learned that I guess we're seeing right now. We've learned that police have been given authority by Columbia University to enter the campus, and I gather what we're seeing right now is exactly that. Police are making their move into the campus. It's believed they gave advance warning of a couple of hours that they were going to move in and clear the area. They wanted all the protesters to clear the area. Now, it's not clear to us whether they will be simply going to Hamilton Hall, which was taken over by protesters and what police are calling professional agitators, or whether they're moving onto the entire campus and perhaps saying it's time to get rid of the encampment. But we certainly think that the priority is Hamilton Hall, where students have barricaded themselves in. It seems to me that a few officers already have gone through. We can see this guy who looks like he's ready to. Oh no, that's actually just a photographer. That's not a protester who's getting up on the gate to take pictures. So police officers are entering the Columbia University campus, apparently with permission from the university. Ali, what are you seeing?
Right now, yes, we're seeing the police going towards the gates here. Step up on this stool here so that I can see a little bit better from the higher point. Some people already seem to be taken into arrest, and I think these were taken outside because I haven't seen the gates open at any point. So some people, perhaps because they were blocking the gate, they're blocking the entrance for the cops to go in. You know, Dick, I'm not going to lie here. I'm a little surprised that this is the side that the NYPD has chosen to go in on. If I were to be taking bets, I would have thought they would have gone in on the other side because there were significantly fewer protesters outside the gates on the other side. So I would have thought that they would have wanted to go in on the side that had less of a crowd there. But they seem to be making their way towards it on this side. They're already starting to seemingly be putting some people into custody who are outside the gates here. And this is before they've even entered campus on this side.
Let's just point out, Ali, though, there is the possibility that this is happening in multiple locations and our camera is only catching one of them. That's always a possibility. I'm just going to ask the folks here, are we able to get in contact with Alicia Reed, who was at another location? Well, not at the moment. Okay. Not Alicia, but Naveen Dhaliwal is joining us now from in the area. Naveen, what location are you at and what are you seeing?
Yeah, Dick, I'm at Broadway and West 113th, about 3 blocks away from that 116th entrance where Ali is. And this has been blocked off by barricades for hours now. There's no traffic allowed, vehicle traffic that is, for another 2 or 3 blocks away. And the pro-Palestinian protesters are just over to your right. You can see them chanting. You can hear them chanting. They've been standing here for hours now. Just about maybe in the last 2 or 3 minutes, there were 2 large NYPD buses that were going into the barricaded area, and those protesters tried to stop those 2 buses from entering into the zone, is what I'm going to call it. You can see police are here. They are in riot gear. They have their helmets on, their batons on at this time, and they're ready for anything. You had mentioned, Dick, that there's some sort of a commotion, movement happening over by Columbia itself, but over here you can see them chanting. There seems to be a commotion here as well. Again, I'm at West 113th and Broadway, 3 blocks away approximately from that entrance where the real activity is happening. So over here, police are trying to keep these protesters calm. As you can see, they're doing the best they can, but those protesters are demonstrators, I will call them, are working with each other. They've been chanting, they're holding signs, but it seems like they've been barricaded away and keeping away from the zone for safety at this time. Dick. Yeah,
and we can tell you that what we're learning is that police have been moving in, they've been given permission to move in, but the question is, what are they doing? Now, we were just told that police said they would hold a news conference at 114th Street, but I think you know, Naveen, that the idea of a news conference in the middle of activity like this.
Are we able to go with them? Where's Channel 2?
I'm trying to give them a email from GCPI.
That's what it is. So the other...
They have emails from GCPI.
Naveen, we're just watching you. We're just watching you, Naveen, attempting to get through. What was he saying to you?
What's happening is actually, what he's saying to me, I'm the third crew here, so Allie and Alicia are inside. So I am going to have to remain out here at West 113th and Broadway. But that's where you can see where police are ready to go. They aren't giving any information as to what's happening 3 blocks away. So that probably, with what your vantage point, Dick, with the chopper as well as Allie, you're able to give us a better idea of what's happening 3 blocks away. But here, the demonstrators have been here for hours. They're trying to get into that zone, and police are ready for them. As I mentioned just about 5-6 minutes ago, 2 NYPD buses, large buses, did enter the zone. It's unclear whether those were to arrest someone or what the deal is with that.
Naveen, if I could just interrupt you, some pictures we're seeing now, I think in the location where Allie Bauman is, it appears that arrests are being made. Allie, are you able to see this? Okay, we've lost Allie Bauman, but I can tell you, yeah, we're efforting Allie, we're efforting to get to Allie, but from what I just saw a few moments ago, it appeared that people were being let out and perhaps somebody was even being carried out. I assume that was a live picture. Allie, are you getting the impression, that arrests are being made?
There are definitely arrests being made. I'm watching it right now. Police taking one person away. I saw a moment ago police taking someone else away in, whether it's the zip ties, the cuffs, whatever it is, that they're taking them away with their arms restricted. And from my vantage point, I don't even think the police have actually entered campus yet. I think these are just people who have been blocking them from going through the gates, because I haven't even seen these gates open yet. So if anything, they've closed the gates since they were allowed to be there before. So they've taken, I've seen at least 4, I want to say, and there may be more than that. And every time police take someone away, and there's another person now going as well. Police taking them away with their arms restricted. So it appears, and again, I'm not 100%, but it appears that the police are arresting the people at the moment. More riot cops are coming through from the other side now, and the protesters are, I don't know if the photographer can turn the camera a little bit so you can see them on this side here. But protesters are coming in. Protesters are now seemingly to clash with police on the other side of where this is all happening. I am now seeing one of the gates at campus be open. So now you have police on both sides entering this location outside campus where the barricades are. Police are coming through. Protesters somewhat are clearing out a little bit, or at least, leaving this direct area, because it was appearing that they were putting some into custody who were blocking them from entering the main gates of campus. Even more, these ones have their batons in hand, their helmets on here, and are lining up right outside of the gates here as well. You have people on the sidewalks moving out of the way chanting.
Allie, I'm just, from the little bits that I'm seeing on screen, I thought I was getting an impression from the gate that there was more than just a couple of students leaving the campus, that there might have been what you might call a slight stream of students leaving the campus. So perhaps with the police moving in, some are moving out. I see behind these officers, I'm seeing some people walk away. I don't know whether they're being taken away, but it is possible that some students have just decided it would be a good idea to get off the campus, and that would probably be very good advice, being that what we're seeing.
And you mean students leaving the campus that you're seeing? Because I've been seeing protesters who have been out here leaving the area.
No, I thought coming through that gate, but I could be wrong. It's a very chaotic situation right now. But as you point out, it's not even clear where the officers are in relationship to the campus, how far they've gotten in, if they've gotten in very far at all, correct?
I haven't even really seen them go in. I see right now they've all are lined up here in front of the campus gates. Right now, where you're seeing them on my camera, they are not, and they have not entered campus on this side yet. They're on the side that is the outside of campus here. I do see what looks like students who are scaling the fence on the inside of the campus there. So it appears they haven't even entered campus yet, and are now moving around the barricades, perhaps to situate themselves to effectively go in.
Let's reset the scene, Allie. What we've been watching in the last, really, almost an hour, I think now. Police officers gathered around the Columbia campus in riot gear and with zip ties. and ready to move in. And in the last 10 or 15 minutes or so, we've seen a lot of movement by police officers. But as Ali points out, it's still not clear that they never ever made their way into the campus, although it's hard to tell sometimes with all the crowds. We can tell you a few hours ago, the mayor had advised that people clear the area. It seemed like a pretty clear warning that the police were going to go in and, if not clear the campus, certainly go into Hamilton Hall, where protesters and perhaps outside agitators, professional agitators, as the NYPD said, took over the hall earlier today and barricaded themselves in. We have no idea if and when the police will be moving in that direction, but we can see that something has been happening for at least the last half hour.
Dick, do you see this right now?
No, go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I want you to see on my screen the truck that has just pulled up, a truck that I have never seen in my 8 years of being a reporter in New York City, this is the emergency services unit truck here that is a very intimidating sight where you have officers with shields on the roof here. You know, it looks like a military-grade vehicle that is coming down Amsterdam right now with protesters on each side. So we're about to see, you know, this is all. I'm assuming this as I'm saying it out loud, if this is probably why they were moving the barricades so that this kind of truck could come through. And behind that, I don't know if you're able to see on the camera, but behind that there is a motorcade, what appears, you know, of police vehicles. And now I'm finally seeing what appears to be the Corrections Department bus, which, to be frank, I was waiting to be seen because I hadn't seen the Corrections Department bus yet and was wondering how they were planning to make these mass arrests if they weren't going to have that bus. And now I do see it coming in with this very large police thing here that's coming through. So this is what we're seeing on site right now.
And you know, this is just many of the vehicles.
Quite a sight.
Yeah, you point out, Ali, that you've never seen a vehicle like that. I don't think I have either. I've been around a few extra years. And the departments in this country, not just in New York City, but all around the country, have purchased a lot of these vehicles for events that they are very fearful of, maybe not necessarily this type of an event. But it is interesting to see that behind that vehicle, behind that very large, almost militaristic-looking vehicle.
Wow, look what they're doing here.
Go ahead.
Wow. They've just driven up to, this is how it seems they're going to be entering campus right now. Wow. They're not going through the gates, actually. They're what looks like, you know, almost like a fire truck where they have this, what do they call it, like a cherry picker type thing that's now going into what is Hamilton Hall, which is where those students are. So it seems they're not even bothering with the gates. They're just going to be coming onto campus this way.
And it looks like we're seeing it happen right now. Presumably they're going to get to a window, go through a window and get in there. Interesting that they allow our cameras to show this, because presumably anybody on the inside would be able to watch this on television. And now we sit here and wait and see how long they take to perhaps move in. Now you're saying that they have this sort of jerry-rigged ramp heading into something in Hamilton Hall. Is that correct?
Yeah, they drove up. They had the cops here on the roof of this vehicle as they drove up. They put out this, like you're saying, a ramp is essentially what it is, that they just a little ungracefully drove up towards this building. There was a bit of a crash sound out here when it drove up. And, you know,
now they're pulling away.
They're backing up a little bit, but this is, yeah, but, I mean, I don't know if that's just to reposition themselves, but this seems to be their tactic. And I can't help but wonder if the police, you know, do want to, you're saying that you're surprised that they're letting the police cameras see this, but perhaps they do want the cameras to see this because they want to perhaps be more transparent with how this is, because, you know, since the media is not allowed onto campus, perhaps they want to be showing, you know, transparently how they will be executing these arrests.
And it could also be possible that this is a feint or a fake, and that they still would be going in, shall we say, the front door, and perhaps not going through a window, or doing both at once. And now we're seeing the vehicle pull back up to the window, and perhaps they're working on a coordinated effort here. I mean, there are all sorts of tactics that we're not privy to, but you can bet that the NYPD has scouted this out. You said the drones were up. They obviously were looking through the windows as best they could to see what they were up against. And now they have the very difficult task of executing this. Screaming to people, get back. I heard protesters yelling, shame on you. And now they're...
Yes, protesters have definitely been, you know, yelling at them for, you know, this whole time. I have just noticed that one of the gate entrances has just reopened. I'm trying to see if police are entering through this way here. So to your point of if officers are going in multiple ways, but so right now they're going through.
Looks
wow,
like they're going in.
The window here.
Yep, with guns drawn.
It's
guns
because
drawn.
wow, guns drawn, a shield up.
And what's the next move?
It's interesting that we've been talking about, and the mayor and governor and and students have been talking about the National Guard being brought in as the last resort, but this, I don't think they were expecting this.
Well, and it almost looks as simply as this officer is trying to open the window. I mean, you would have thought that perhaps they would just smash through it, but or just looking to see who or what is on the other side of that window. But they're not immediately smashing through it, which is the move you thought they might have made.
And why they've chosen this window, I'm not sure if this is just how they're planning to, start and move to the different windows. Yeah,
Allie, you don't have any view on any lower door or anything like that to the Hamilton Hall, do you?
No, there's no street level door to that building. The entrance to Hamilton Hall where the students are is the campus side. So if you're entering from the street side, I guess the window's the way to do it. Is there something, can you see, is there something coming out of the window at this point?
No, there's nothing that I can see coming out of the window. I can't even see, your eyes play tricks on you. At one point you'd say maybe there's a shadow in that window, but I can't say that for sure either. You'd have to think that anyone on the other side of that window really has to be concerned right now what's facing them.
Yeah, and I am now seeing the NYPD dozens going in through the gate as well. So you have police going on the ground through the gate. You have police going on in this elevated sense in the window, looking out through the window. So they're definitely making the move in. And behind me there are hundreds of people. This is where the media pen, so to speak, where the media has been this whole time, but there's also now all the protesters that were outside those gates now. I don't know if you're going to cut my audio because now they're cursing at the police, but they're behind us, yelling at these officers, watching it. Everyone has their phones up recording this. So this is definitely a very
It's also possible that this vehicle we're seeing and these guys on the window are just standing there in the event that they feel like someone's going to come try to burst out the window, escape, that kind of thing, and just sort of intimidate the people who are inside and perhaps never move at all. It's hard to tell right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now,
it's hard to tell, or if they're
now it appears they've cut the window in half and they're going in. They were actually either moving the window up or cutting it in half. So they have breached Hamilton Hall.
They've breached Hamilton Hall officially. They are going through the window. You have officers on campus going on the ground here.
Now we've seen
they are executing.
This would be the third officer going through, another one behind him. It's hard to imagine what's on the other side. Now they've opened a second window. And this may be one of multiple entrances they're going into right now. We presume they might have been going in the front door, but this one wasn't barricaded, so perhaps this was the wise move by officers. And remember, they're ready for anything. There could be a very peaceful surrender. There could be people who get violent or not. And I think what they're hoping for is that whoever is in there will surrender peacefully. I think we're all hoping for that. Allie,
absolutely,
I was going to say, has the crowd gotten any bigger while you're out there of protesters around the building?
Yes, and it definitely has. It's grown in the past few hours just in general with protesters getting here, and now they're all on the sidewalks here behind the barricades watching the police do this. And I have noticed, so where we are, there's like an elevated walkway that goes from across Amsterdam from the campus to the other building that's on the other side of campus that's not technically on campus. So there's like an elevated walkway here essentially behind me, and that's not accessible unless you're on campus. And I see now dozens and dozens of people up there watching this as well. So whether they're people who, were on campus for other reasons, live on campus or whatnot, there's a large audience in this area.
It's a fascinating
that is watching this all play out.
It's a fascinating approach or a tactic. Now, we don't know what's going on other doors, perhaps other windows, but this certainly isn't a lightning strike into Hamilton Hall. This is a slow, laborious process. So you have to figure perhaps there are two or maybe two more points of entry that they're going into right now. But right now, I think we're up to about 9 or 10 officers that have made their way in there.
And there's a line behind of, I don't even know, at least a dozen officers that are on the ladder behind them waiting to, seemingly go in. They're lined up behind the cops that are going through the window now. And they have, a line that were all in that truck that pulled up a few minutes ago, seemingly going in.
And they all are armed, and they all have riot gear on, and they don't know what they're going to encounter because police had been told that professional agitators were in Hamilton Hall. They didn't know how many, and they couldn't say where they were from necessarily, but they did say, quote, "We have seen them elsewhere," which is sort of a warning to officers that they're professionals, they know what they're doing, and perhaps they want to make sure that they're not setting any traps or they're not waiting for them. But now it appears there's a much more energetic, shall we say, approach into the building. And now, assuming once they get in there, they have to detain the people who are in there, they have to put them in the zip ties, and then they have to get them out of there, and then also say to themselves, okay, we're going to be coming down to some protesters who are not going to be happy to see these arrests. And that could make things very difficult for the NYPD.
Definitely, and that's why you have these barricades here, and that's why I think before this truck came in, they made a point to move the protesters to the opposite side of the street behind the barricades. But I do want to, remind our audience that when the police arrested the students, whatever it was, 2 weeks ago or so, the first go around, and they brought them down to police headquarters downtown for processing and such, there was a large group of protesters that actually tried to block that bus that was carrying the arrested students as it got down. Clearly, they were not fully successful. Police were able to carry out what they needed to do with the people that they had in custody there. But that is the types of pushback that we've been seeing from protesters out here has been, that type of demonstration here. Right now, we don't see people seeming to break through the barricades. Everyone does seem to be, that I can see, respecting the police barricades that are here. They are chanting, of course, but that's, nothing illegal about that. So, each time I look back over to the truck with the police officers, it seems like more police officers in khaki pants are lining up.
It was just a little difficult to hear you for a second. My question is, are there still, from your vantage point, officers going in through the main gate of the campus?
The main gate is open. The gate is open. There are police officers in riot gear standing outside at this point. I saw a couple dozen go in a few minutes ago. I don't see any more going in at the precise moment, and I don't see anyone coming out either.
The reason why I ask is because I think it's that secondary question that we have, which is, A, we just assumed they were going into Hamilton Hall to remove those students, but B, would there be any kind of larger action on the campus? Because you have to admit that if you're the police, you say, okay, we clear out Hamilton Hall, but if we leave other, shall we say, professional agitators who are still on campus, the possibility exists that they could try and do something else that they would be worried about. So I had been curious this whole night to wonder.
Well, there are 3 encampments as of this afternoon. There's the one in Hamilton Hall, there's the original encampment on the lawn, and then today, the protest group, the student organization that's been organizing this protest, has said there is actually a second outdoor encampment on campus that has sprung up today. So as of this afternoon, there were at least 3 different encampments, all for the same message, all with the same group, that were on campus here. So, they very well maybe also be trying to clear out the encampment that's happening with those tents that we've been seeing on the lawns, as well as a possible second one. But that I'm not sure of. At this point, I can only see for certain that, officer after officer after officer, a couple handful of officers at this point, with the emergency services unit of the NYPD, are now going through the window of Hamilton Hall. Now, in the past minute or so, the lights have turned on in that in that floor where it's been since we've gone in. So we're going to be continuing to monitor this as the officers continue to go into Hamilton Hall. We're going to pause for at the moment and be right back.
This is breaking news.
And good evening, everyone. This is Maurice Dubois in the CBS 2 newsroom. We are looking at live pictures now. NYPD officers entering Hamilton Hall at the campus of Columbia University. It has been an intense situation all night as officers have approached this building, which has been taken over by protesters, pro-Palestinian protesters, as well as what the NYPD and the mayor are calling outside agitators. They say they have been patient, but they have decided now is the time to go in and retake the building. They have permission, obviously, from the campus, from the administration of Columbia there. But we have seen officers entering from the top of that, the spear, the tip there of a military-style vehicle that the police have been using to get officers in the building. Exactly how that's going, we do not know. We have seen officers entering the campus through another side. We know there are arrests. An unfolding, intense situation at Columbia University. Full report continues here on CBS News New York on the stream and CBS 2 News at 11. We'll see you then. to our live coverage here of the situation unfolding on the campus of Columbia University. NYPD officers in riot gear right there, and students there on the side. There are chants going on. There have been arrests tonight. The main point here tonight is that officers have moved in to retake Hamilton Hall. And you'll recall the mayor and the police commissioner and others have said it was partly retaken or partly taken over about 12 hours ago by outside agitators. NYPD and the mayor have had enough. They have gone in and they are making a stand tonight on the campus. Now, live on the street there, right outside the campus gates, CBS 2's Allie Bauman. Allie, what do you see right now?
Maurice, yeah, we're right out here on 116th in Amsterdam outside the campus gates of Columbia University. You know, about maybe 20 or so minutes ago, this very massive NYPD emergency services truck came through. It is something that I had not seen before in my years of reporting in New York City, and it came and it pulled right up to the outside of Hamilton Hall, which is where those group of protesters have barricaded themselves inside since early this morning. Now, the campus gates on this side have been closed, and the police truck pulled right up to about the second floor window here of that building, and we saw maybe a dozen or even more officers break through the window and climb in through with shields, with helmets, with zip ties around their waist here. While that was happening, at the same time, one of the gates here did open, and NYPD officers, once again in riot gear, did walk through on the ground through Columbia University's front gates here. Now, this is all happening in front of hundreds of protesters who have been outside the entrance here, as well as media for hours here who are watching this, and the protesters here have been jeering at the police. We did see several, arrests being taken place outside of the campus, even as the police were first trying to get up to the gates. They were arresting some people who were standing in front of the gates. We haven't seen any protesters from inside come out yet under arrest. We haven't seen any of the officers who went into the building come out on this side yet, but we're certainly waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, we haven't seen anything like this, Allie. No doubt. I haven't seen anything like that military-style looking vehicle that the officers use to get in there. Talk to me about the scene on the street, because different camera angles show different things. We see there is a sense of calm right behind you. There's a bit of chaos off to the other side, and maybe to the other side a little bit more chaos. I can't really get a feel for it. Maybe you can set the scene for us in terms of confrontations with officers and so forth.
It may be a sense of calm right behind me, but don't let the shot be misleading, because right now there's barricades that are preventing people from going into the street where these officers are and getting closer to where the campus is. Now, I'm losing track of what time it is, but about an hour or so ago, there were hundreds of protesters that were just outside of the campus gates on the other side of the street here, and at some point, dozens of officers in the riot gear came through, started moving the barricades, and that's when we started to see, more clashes break out between protesters and police here. It didn't seem to get too violent or anything from what we saw, but we did see the police take about a handful of people into custody here as they were trying to clear them out here. Now, at this point, most people that I'm seeing are abiding by the barricades that are here, that are staying staying on the sidewalk and abiding by the barricades that they've set up. But hours ago, police actually shut down traffic here in Amsterdam for cars. So there haven't been cars driving through here, just been people on the street, and now they are, congregating on the sidewalk behind the barricades here, listening to what the police orders were, but I don't know if you can hear them right now chanting "shame on you" at the police.
Yeah, I mean, Allie, let's talk about that vehicle, if you will. It's there in the center of the shot. There's a guy standing in the way, but it's a big, black, almost like a fire truck meets a police emergency services unit truck. And it's got this cherry picker looking sort of arm on the back of it. I don't know if you can see it pointing at the window right there. We've never seen anything like that in the city in all of our years of reporting here. What did you make of that, and how it was received, and how officers, basically it was a show of force as they pulled up?
I think that's a perfect way to describe it. It was definitely a show of force. I mean, they came through this crowd of protesters that are out here. The police drove through sitting on the roof with their shields in front of them, with their helmets already on. They drove right up. I couldn't tell if they actually drove into the building. It sounded like a little bit of a crash when they drove right up to the building. I'm not sure if it was just the curb or whatnot, but it was a loud entrance, and it was, I think that it's interesting that we're having such a public entrance entrance into the building, because the university is not allowing, media on campus at this point. They've asked even students to leave campus who are living in the dorms or to shelter in place. So what's happening behind those campus gates, we cannot see, but they've definitely made a public display of this, and they've done so in front of the protesters. And then they put that cherry picker, like you said, it's almost like a ramp that they lifted up and put up right to the window there, and then one by one went through the window.
Okay, Ali, surreal in so many ways, definitely unusual, but it seems to have helped them achieve their objective, which is to get into the building and probably take it back here at some point this evening. We're going to let you stand by for a minute there, keep an eye on what's happening. CBS 2's Alicia Reed is on the other side of campus. This is 116 and Broadway. Alicia, what do you see at your vantage point?
Maurice, they actually moved us over to 114th and Broadway, and right now we're on 114th. What you're looking at are people that are being taken out of the campus in handcuffs into buses that they brought and drove over to 114th. And so we saw at least 4 or 5 packs of officers walking onto campus, and right now,
let me pull that out.
Give us 1 second here, guys. They're moving us around. Give us 1 second. And so what we saw were packs of officers coming onto 114th and going onto campus. And in the meantime, they have the Heru team with the drones watching over the campus. Their officers manning the streets, telling students to shelter in place. So there are officers at the front of each building ensuring that these students are not coming out. I'm not sure if you guys can hear it, but there are people chanting from their windows and from the front of the buildings, "Shame on you," to the officers. But again, right now on 114th, I must say it is pretty calm. They are bringing people off into the buses now. At least 5 buses have been parked on 114th as they start bringing the people out. And the NYPD has been carrying the press just one step at a time, closer and closer to where we are right now. And I think this is the closest that we'll get, where they're actually bringing protesters out in handcuffs and bringing them over to the buses. Maurice?
And Alicia, it looks like the strategy, a smart one in any operation such as this, is to overwhelm with numbers, with force. And when you said there were packs of officers moving in a group in different directions to go after people on the campus to take them out in cuffs, what kind of numbers would you say that looked like? Like how many officers at a time, and how many people did they seem to take out, best you could tell?
Yeah, absolutely. Hundreds of officers. I want to say the first pack was at least maybe 200, and then they had a second pack and a third pack. But by the 4th, there weren't as many. We're hearing protesters on the other side. I think that's Amsterdam. They're getting louder and louder. But right now, they actually slowed down in taking people from inside. The first bus is leaving right now. We can see that first NYPD police van leaving with people inside. Some of them were shouting, trying to shout through the windows, "Free Palestine." But as of right now, I would say they have things under control here, but there are lots of officers still manning the streets and making sure that the students who are inside are sheltering in place. Maurice?
Yeah, a lot of numbers when you look at officers right there, Alicia. One more thing, I don't think you're going to be able to fully answer this, but this is important. The mayor and the police commissioner talked about outside agitators, professional protesters, who they really see as the issue, the main problem here. And I'm guessing that you couldn't tell who was arrested. Were they, outside-looking people or student types or some of both? Or you couldn't, it's night, it's a lot of officers. What'd you see?
Yeah, we couldn't really see faces, and they were rushing us past the buses as they were trying to get us from one location to the next. I can say, looking at the bus right now that just left, it's now it's on 114th in Amsterdam, and there's a crowd of protesters. Officers are now running in that direction, I guess, to try and calm the situation. But it is getting louder a little bit further away from us. But they do have us in pen, so we're just kind of stuck in one place and trying to observe as things happen, but we can't tell what is happening, but it's getting really loud.
Yeah, I didn't think so, Alicia, but it'll be really interesting to see how this shakes out when they give us the totals of the people who they've arrested, who were students, who they advised to get out of here, and they told parents to get their kids off of campus ASAP. Maybe some of them were arrested tonight. We're guessing there were. But did they get these outside agitators and professional protesters as they described them? That also remains to be seen. Alicia, nice work. We'll come back to you and Ali in just a little bit. But right now we're going to go to Richard Esposito, who can give us some analysis and kind of break down what we're looking at here. Richard, I hope you're able to see the same pictures we are. What do you make of what you've seen so far? Police moving in with what seems to be overwhelming force.
I think Maurice, what you've seen, first, the officers entering the building on an upper floor. You'll notice that they're a unit all clad in tan pants. You don't see riot gear, just helmets. You don't see nightsticks. What you see is an overwhelming number of officers. You've already, reporters have noted the drone coverage overhead, and you can be sure they have a good schematic of inside the building, and they have good video, so they know who they want to arrest, and they know who they prefer not to arrest if possible. This is not like, I don't know if you recall the Republican convention in New York where I think 1,200 or more, 1,800 people were arrested protesting. That's not going to happen here. The police are doing this in a very judicious way. They're trying to avoid images that would encourage and amplify other protests. And the way to do that is use overwhelming force in terms of numbers, but not overwhelming force in terms of zip ties, in terms of any of the tools you might see in other cities, like in Tampa, where police are responding with looks like tear gas and zip ties. You're not seeing any of that, and you're seeing not that many people being taken off campus. Now, the question is, outside agitators is always a tricky phrase. Certainly, it means non-students. Certainly, they've identified who they say are professional agitators. And in the past, there have certainly been people connected to on the campus, not today, but in the past week, people on the campus who are connected to known alleged terrorists, according to intelligence officers.
You know, Richard, I'm wondering what you make of that vehicle right there. We're getting some reporting from our team here. The ESU, Emergency Services Unit vehicle, is called the Lenco Bear, a ballistic engineered armored rescue vehicle with Mars, a mobile adjustable ramp system. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we saw this vehicle. It's right there in the middle of your screen, right up against Hamilton Hall, where the officers entered that second floor window. We saw that vehicle come in and really, you know, show a show of force and give the officers sort of an impervious vehicle to operate from, and then go about their business. Have you seen that before?
I have seen it before in New York, in Los Angeles. It's a very effective tool. You see that it could pull right up to the building, no limited risk. It's a heavy vehicle. You see that it has the ability to raise a ladder. It has other tools that can be used with it as well. In this case, they're not using it in a forceful way. They're using it as a deployment tool. And forgive me for not having the technical terms in front of it, of what the vehicle's capabilities are.
But it is a very impressive vehicle, and it's almost like a tank, right? It was a real show of force.
Like a tank.
Yeah, as those officers moved in. What do you make of the way they're going about this? I think it was great for you to point out that they were wearing helmets, not riot gear, as some of us may mistakenly think, but helmets only. That's to protect themselves and to be careful with students, right? Young people.
That's correct. They are going in a way where they have a huge number, but you can see that they're going in with protective gear on, not riot gear. You don't see those big shields. You don't see batons. You don't see full face coverings. You see that on some of the officers standing by outside in case they need to do that. But right now, they're going in sheer numbers is the best tool in this kind of action, and that's what the police are using. They're using numbers. And I think you'll find the number arrested will not be that large. Remember, it's actually not a huge number of protesters in that building to begin with.
And what do you make of these protesters? We're talking about these so-called outside agitators, professional protesters, as the mayor and the police commissioner called them. You've seen them in other situations, such as what? Where have you seen them?
So let me call them a violent fringe for the moment, without who's outsiders, who's not. But you've seen them in the George Floyd protests. You've seen them at Occupy Wall Street. You've seen them at any number of events. And sometimes they almost appear to be hijacking someone else's cause, wrapping themselves in a cause that isn't quite theirs, because their cause is disruption. In a sense, some of them are anarchists.
Yeah, what about that? I mean, what's the motivation? Just to raise hell, basically?
Yes, to raise hell in the sense of causing disorder, showing authorities being heavy-handed, but it doesn't help the protest. If you're someone who's there for pro-Palestinian reasons, you're making your point with banners, with flags, with voices, all things that the university may not like, but they'll tolerate. If you're there encouraging people to light flares in the faces of cops, block traffic, break windows, that's a different thing altogether. And while the students, if you recall, had compared this to the Vietnam-era takeover of that building, in 1968, there were millions of Americans against the war, millions. That is not a correct parallel with what you're seeing now. And that's an important distinction when people try and say, look, this violence comes in a pattern. You didn't see that time either. One of my friends represented 1,200 of the arrestees at that time.
Yeah, and what we saw with the takeover of Hamilton Hall last night was people with hammers and a sophisticated pulley system, you know, to get supplies up and down from the ground up to the building. They came in and trashed the place. They, you know, destroyed windows and doors as they broke into the building. The work, the NYPD said, of these outside agitators.
Yes, and the police commissioner has just let me know that things should be calming down up at Columbia now.
It appears to be that way. As we look at the scene right now, this is video from earlier, but if we're able to go back to the live pictures, we can see this, I believe. Guys, tell me which street this is. I can't tell. Is that Amsterdam or Broadway? I think it's Amsterdam. But what that is officers kind of standing but not moving. There's no movement here. What does that tell you, Richard?
It tells me what I'm seeing in a direct quote from someone in the police commissioner's office, which is all is good now at Columbia. And that they were able to get the people out smoothly, they say, and they did not have to get too many people out. I think that would indicate that tactically they've done a good job. This
is a contact of yours at the NYPD?
This is yes, a senior police official.
High-ranking official. So saying that all is good at Columbia, that doesn't mean it's an all clear, but they feel like they have things under control. Is that what they're saying? That's
correct, and they feel like they've gotten out the key people that they needed to get out.
And that would be a pretty quick operation. I mean, this is less than an hour since they moved in there and retook Hamilton Hall and reestablished order, as you put it, on campus.
Yeah, you know, it's like with tailors, measure twice, cut once, right? The operation is all in the planning.
Yes. Okay. Looks like the plan has been executed and pulled off rather well. Richard, thank you so much. I think we're going to move on now to CBS 2's Naveen Dhaliwal. Naveen, where are you and what's your vantage point right now? What do you see?
Yeah, Maurice, I'm at West 113th and Broadway, and there have been a group of protesters here for several hours now. You can see them there chanting. They've been holding their signs. There have been barricades here been placed, and there is no vehicle traffic for, I'd say, about 3 blocks into this area, but there is foot traffic, as you can see. Now, as the NYPD vehicles move into the zone past West 113th, these demonstrators really surround these vehicles and are trying to get past the barricades. It just happened in the last 2-3 minutes, but police are ready. They have their gear, they have those helmets on, the batons ready, and they are well aware of what's happening just a few blocks away here at Columbia as those arrests, as the NYPD converges on to Hamilton Hall. You can see them, they have been ready. The barricades have been in place, but so far, no major issues at this corner. There seems to be order for the most part. At one point, the protesters sat on the ground up against the barricades, chanting, taunting the officers. But it seems like so far this corner is order for the most part. But we are keeping a close eye, Maurice, and we will bring you the very latest from here. Back to you.
Okay, good work there, Naveen Dhaliwal. Thank you so much. At 113 and Broadway. This image here, I believe this is 114 and Broadway. What you can see in both of these pictures is that there appears to be police in a state of calm. There is no agitation going on. It appears they've gone in and accomplished their mission. They've come into the zone and flooded it with a lot of officers with a large vehicle, and they seem to have retaken Hamilton Hall. There have been arrests made, and at the moment it appears, we can say, that things are under control at Columbia. But we're going to continue to watch it. We'll have more for you right here on CBS News New York, streaming, and on CBS 2 News at 11 o'clock. I'm Maurice Dubois. We will see you as we continue tonight.
What did Ian say?
that bus, I think, is full.
Okay.
I think this bus is full. This bus is full. The cops got off the bus, then they're navigating back on the bus. I guess that means they're going to take them back. So I can see some of the kids that were arrested. I can see them on the bus seats.
It's like that's pretty good.
Do you know how long they're taking you for the street? Just tell me when to
I'm kidding. Sorry.
Yeah, you're in the thing with your arms full. I think it's this camera right here, right in front of us.
The what?
I think it's just a lot of stress on us, constantly being on high alert, WPCR, just trying to be as possible.
Watching the Bearcat drive into the bus and then stopping and realizing
okay? Put her inside. No, you gotta go that way.
Stay over there, stay over there.
I'm gonna let you through in a second. Just hold on.
What's that?
I'm gonna let you through in a second. Just I'm gonna through on that.
Yeah, I'm not making any sense.
No, I know. I thought you were allowed that. That's what my lecture said. I thought you were allowed to stand in the entire time. Once you got yelled at by the chief, so now you gotta go. Come this way.
I will.
Alright, looks like this party really died. No tear gas. We need to take a picture for the workshop. Oh, sorry. Oh, no, it just took forever then. Alright, sweet. We can pick it up. I'll show you. Which year were you? Sorry. 2016, right? Last time I saw you, man. They call this a special name for this.
Is it a bear cat or something?
Bear cat.
Yeah. Hey!
They charged it like it was a pirate ship, ramming a boat.
No one knew that there was this kind of massive response here. I would have gone here sooner.
I was charging at a cafe stuck inside of the so it didn't feel the jacket. I got perfume. Guys, I think this is wrapping up, but I'll let everyone else tell you that. Yeah, those were the kids that they took away, so. That was an awesome shot with the bus. Not to toot my own horn, but that was pretty great.
Oh, it's because of the graduation.
Not too bad with 9 TV.
Sorry.
they thought the chance of no press on campus.
What's up, buddy? The Ranger, citizens. How you doing?
This is the one that he sent it like the application for the I think
Yeah, I love that. I have it.
Oh, look, get these shots. Get these guys leaving. They're leaving. Can you go get any of them? No. Hey, guys, just shoot this. Shoot this. Hey, guys. Hello? Hello, hello. All right. So we should say about this. Guys, we should come to this. E, are you charged? You're not charged, right? don't understand what's going on, guys.
You guys see this control? They're wrapping up that. Yeah, they're.
Yeah, I've been ready.
That's the Bearcat.
Thanks for that window.
John Giannetta, my other partner, said everybody in the building, they walked out the other side.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, that's why we didn't see anybody coming this way. Because they shut down 114th Street.
Excuse me, guys. I'm trying to move my car.
How far down?
I don't know if that's one of you guys.
What side?
7010.
What side are you on?
This side right here.
Show.
No, it's on campus, but like you have to go up and then around the log bridge. Yeah. It's university possibly. I don't even want to do it. I don't know. You guys have some reviews over at City College? That's where all those ESU comes from. So guys, City College.
This is breaking news.
And good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois with breaking news from the campus of Columbia University tonight. NYPD has moved in and made arrests, breaking up the protesters. This was a scene not long ago. NYPD officers in protective gear atop an emergency services unit, looked like a tank basically, riding up to a window of Hamilton Hall, had been taken over by protesters early this morning. They extended a ramp. They climbed in one by one, a show of force we have rarely seen in the city. Police got clearance from Columbia earlier in the evening to enter the campus. Hundreds of officers also seen on the ground going in through the gates. Police say there have been about 4 dozen arrests so far, many taken away in handcuffs and put in buses and driven away. And we have a live look now at the scene. All happened very quickly, and it appears that calm has been restored there tonight. We have just learned police have dismantled that tent encampment that had popped up 14 days ago. We've got a team of reporters at Columbia tonight. Live team coverage, the very latest, CBS 2 News at 11. We'll see you then.
Watch your head! Watch your head! Watch your head!
That's what it is.
How the little ones?
They're great, getting on my nerves sometimes. You know what? They're like those candies. What's those old beer candies where they like cut your hair? They'll cut you and then but they'll come with a band-aid. You know what I mean? I forgot what it is. Nah, they're joy. So this is good, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I guess you were one of the people I'm speaking like I'm running this operation, but I'll be your spokesperson. You bear with us? This is all free.
Yes, I am.
Trust me.
This is CBS 2 News at 11.
And breaking news right now at 11, an imposing NYPD vehicle pulls up to Columbia University as officers arrest demonstrators who had taken over Hamilton Hall and had been refusing to leave. This is the culmination of 2 weeks of protest on campus, all coming to a head tonight. Good evening. I'm Maurice Dubois. Tonight, police say they have made nearly 50 arrests, dismantled 3 encampments on campus, and this comes after hundreds of officers in protective gear and with zip ties entered the campus as a request of the administration. Those protesters loaded onto buses and taken away. All this coming 2 weeks after a protest encampment was put up on the lawn right in the middle of campus, and just last night, protesters took over Hamilton Hall. Tonight, new video just into our newsroom showing police inside that building, going up the stairs and entering rooms. We have team coverage of tonight's arrests and the protests, and reporters spread out all around the campus. We begin with CBS 2's Allie Bauman, who was there when the officers moved in. Allie.
Well, Maurice, things have seemingly calmed down here outside campus where we are at this hour, but it was certainly an eventful evening, an eventful last couple of hours here. Now, protesters had been outside of this entrance of Columbia University by Amsterdam Avenue for all day and has only grown in numbers in the past few hours. Now, around 8 p.m. or so, it appeared that something was certainly imminent, that something was soon to be happening, because even more NYPD officers were showing up than had been throughout the day. They were coming with helmets, with zip ties, and they were starting to close down the avenues that surround the university campus here. Now, it was around 9 p.m. that we've learned that the university's president, Manu Shafiq, sent a letter to the NYPD formally requesting they come onto campus to dismantle the 3 encampments that had been set up here on campus. That's first the main lawn where the encampment had been for the past 2 weeks or so that we've seen and have reported on repeatedly. A secondary lawn encampment where protesters had just set up just today, as well as Hamilton Hall, where overnight protesters broke through the windows and barricaded themselves inside with the door. And they used furniture that they tied together to make sure that people weren't allowed in. People were actually bringing them supplies up through the windows throughout the day as they refused to leave until the university agreed to their demands that they said to divest from businesses, from companies that do business with Israel. Now, it was around 9 p.m. that that officers then came here and started to move the barricades, started to move the protesters out of the way of the front gates here. They started to make arrests outside of even before they even went onto campus, of people who were refusing to leave the gates where is the entrance for the campus here. Now, that was around the time that that large NYPD tank started driving through. Once those protesters were, more behind the barricades on the side, they drove through Amsterdam. It was quite an intimidating scene to actually see, because you had this giant tank coming through the street. Officers were sitting on side of the roof, and then they didn't go onto campus. They drove right up to Hamilton Hall, the outside side of Hamilton Hall here. They drove right up to the second floor window. They put what looked like a cherry picker type ramp up to the second floor window, and then one after another, dozens of officers started going through that window to enter inside. They had shields with them, some of them did, and they had flashlights, and they started to go inside of the second floor window here. Now, around that time, we also saw that one of the gates here did open, and dozens more NYPD officers entered on campus by foot. They came in on the ground level and went inside. They were, of course, being jeered by the protesters who were on the street level here, who were watching. They were inside for about an hour or so before we saw anyone coming out at all. As the protesters, they chanted, they gathered, they sang songs even out here as they were waiting to see what would come from all those NYPD officers who went inside. And then about an hour or so ago, we did see at least two NYPD buses filled with protesters who had been put under arrest driving through. The protesters who were out here cheered for them as those buses drove through. And that's the latest that we've seen from this side of Columbia University's campus here in Morningside Heights. Maurice.
Good work there. Thank you so much. Meantime, After the overnight takeover of Hamilton Hall, Columbia wrote a letter requesting the police assistance. It read in part, "We believe that while the group who broke into the building includes students, it is led by individuals who are not affiliated with the university. We request the NYPD's help to clear all individuals from Hamilton Hall and all campus encampments." Now, our team coverage moves to CBS 2's Alicia Reed. And Alicia, what's it like now? And tell us about what it was like earlier tonight.
Maurice, police say they used flashbangs to disorient protesters in order to make their way into Hamilton Hall. They said they did not use tear gas whatsoever, but they did what they had to do in order to get inside. Now, you can see officers standing behind me. There's a group, dozens, standing there just making sure that protesters are remaining calm out here. The number has dwindled in the last hour or so, but they are standing firm to ensure that the situation remains calm here. Now, things started coming to a head around 8 o'clock this evening when police started driving down Broadway at 116th Street. You can tell something was going on, but no one really knew what was happening at the time. But you can tell something was brewing. They added barricades up right on 116th Street and Broadway, and that extended across from Columbia all the way across Broadway. And that was after protesters got a bit rowdy on the street. And before tonight, those barricades were only on the sidewalk of Columbia University. Now, hundreds of police officers tonight at a time marched onto the Columbia campus. They made their way to the different encampments, including the one in Hamilton Hall, where they say protesters, some of them identified as outside agitators, barricaded themselves inside with soda machines, chairs, tables, and anything they could get their hands on. They were escorted outside in zip ties and placed on buses before being hauled off. We saw a number of buses being hauled off. At least a handful of buses were parked outside to transport those protesters. And students living in nearby buildings were told to shelter in place, and they did. Some chanted through their windows. And as of now, police are saying dozens of people were taken into custody. We're still waiting to find out the exact number and also what charges they're facing. Live from Morningside Heights, Alicia Reed, CBS 2 News.
Okay, Alicia, thank you. Now let's check in with CBS 2's Naveen Dhaliwal. She was at 113th and Broadway when police moved in. A whole different scene right now, Naveen.
Yeah, that's right, Maurice. It's not just Columbia that had seen these demonstrations, but other intersections along Broadway where pro-Palestinian demonstrators were chanting and threatening. This right here is West 113th and Broadway. You can see live pictures right now where the crowds are much smaller than they were earlier. Now, earlier demonstrators were charged. They were angry as barricades prevented them from going past West 113th toward Columbia as the NYPD began to make their way onto campus and disband those camps on the lawn. Now, at this intersection, police were ready. They had their gear, they had their helmets, batons, ready for anything possible. No major eventful thing had happened here. However, at one point, NYPD vehicles entered the zone that is past 113th toward 116th. Those vehicles went north toward Columbia, and demonstrators surrounded those vehicles, chanting, screaming, even sat in front of the barricades, threatening police officers. But that you can see right now, this intersection is still closed off, as well as other streets along Broadway still closed off at this time. The police presence has backed off. However, it is still here. Back to you, Maurice.
Thank you so much. And we are learning tonight about these outside agitators that police told us about. The mayor mentioned earlier as well. CBS 2's Dick Brennan here now with more on these folks. Dick.
Yeah, Maurice, police said tonight that protesters with no affiliation to Columbia University smashed their way into Hamilton Hall overnight and staged that takeover. Now, we can tell you that police say they deactivated cameras in the hall and they barricaded doors. Now, they say they've seen these agitators before, although they didn't say where, and they kind of implied that they might be involved in some sort of network. And they release a video also tonight that they say shows those professional agitators at Columbia over the last few days. Now, one more thing they mentioned, they're concerned that they would be working on multiple campuses in the U.S., or perhaps why we saw such a strong response tonight by the NYPD. And now the tent encampment. It's been on the campus for some 2 weeks. You see video of this earlier today. Protesters had refused to move, and as of today, we estimated there were probably a few dozen protesters left in the encampment. Well, tonight, the NYPD confirmed the encampment has been cleared. The protesters were removed. An extraordinary evening here in New York.
Truly, I can't remember anything quite like it, right, Dick? I mean, we've been around for a few years,
We've
and
seen a few
this is a different one.
Responses by the NYPD, and obviously they had their concerns about the so-called agitators. I mean, but as we talked about earlier, they were also moving in on students. So presumably there were a lot of frightened students there tonight.
Right, they backed down on the riot gear. They overwhelmed the whole area with a huge number of officers. That's the first rule of a situation like this. Flood the zone really with officers and overwhelm it and take control. That's what they did.
Because they didn't know what they were going to expect, particularly because of the so-called outside agitators. Fortunately, it seems, at least the reports we're getting now, that there were no injuries and no great resistance, but that all needs to be sorted out by the NYPD. But presumably they'll have a press conference later.
All right, Dick, thank you so much. Meantime, we should mention that right now, due to the increased police activity, there is an impact to public transit. The one train bypassing the Columbia University stopped there in both directions at 116th Street. Instead, MTA says you should take the B or the C train if you're trying to get to 116th Street. Our coverage on the protests at Columbia tonight continue, and the arrests as well. We're going to take it back out live to the campus where police still on the scene, but the protesters have seemingly cleared out. We're going to talk with a former NYPD deputy commissioner about the NYPD's tactics tonight. And there's another scene unfolding. This is at City College. There are protests there, including flares, and the protesters refusing to leave. This is just 20 blocks away from Columbia University going uptown. We'll have much more on that for you straight ahead. Also tonight, Lonnie tracking our first alert forecast. We saw some storms tonight, Lon.
We did see some storms. However, if you look at the radar right now, while there is still some rain out there, anything heavy has moved out of the area. Will any of that rain stick around for your morning? I'm going to address that question right after the break, so come on back.
Okay, Lonnie, and a tough one for Knicks fans tonight at the Garden. Larry in for Otis tonight. Oh, Larry.
Yeah, Mo, they were hoping to party like it was 1999, get a home playoff win at the Garden, but instead it was the Sixers doing the celebrating. A reversal of Game 2 where the Knicks miraculously pull out that late win tonight. Philly hit New York with that Uno reverse. How the Knicks caught up a game late in the final 30 seconds and OT. See you in sports.
Welcome back, everyone. We're following breaking news right now. This is at City College. Large crowds of protesters cheered on while holding flares underneath a Gothic arch on campus. It comes after a night of clashes between police and protesters. Video here showing large crowds gathered and people getting arrested just a few hours ago. You can also see quite a few people throwing liquid at police. As a precaution, all City College classes and functions will be remote beginning tomorrow. Again, that's about a mile north of the campus of Columbia University. And now, a live look at Columbia, where police have arrested nearly 50 protesters who had refused to leave campus. Columbia asking the NYPD to step in, having seen protesters take over Hamilton Hall last night. Let's get to the phone. Joining us is Richard Esposito, a CBS News contributor and a former NYPD deputy commissioner. Richard, let's just take us through the tactics here. I mean, they came in there with an overwhelming amount of force. They came out with 4 arrests. What do you make of that?
Well, I think you saw they drove up in a defensively armored vehicle, used a ladder to enter the building on a higher floor. As CBS has reported, some stun grenades were used to disorient people. But as you noticed, the police were not in riot gear. They were in protective helmets when they went in, and they just went in force. I'm told from inside Hamilton Hall, approximately 40 arrests, and I'm told overall approximately, and these numbers are a little fluid, as you know, they're early numbers, approximately 100 arrests. I'm also told that, and I think you've reported, the tent cities have been cleared of people, and whatever's left behind there will be up to Columbia to finish their property cleanup.
So it appears at this hour, mission accomplished, not a shot fired. We're not hearing reports of injuries just yet. We have some 50 arrests. You have maybe double that, but we'll wait to see how that goes. Mission accomplished, or as some people might say, too much force. What do you say to that?
I think that is an incorrect use of too much force. Applied force might be too much force. Significant and overwhelming numbers is a smart tactic. It avoids violence, so it's not too much force. It's not pushing people to the ground. It's not forcibly grabbing people. It's not using tear gas. It's not using batons. It's none of those things. You did not see police go in with shields through the doors. So that's what I would say to that. It's a misnomer to say that's too much force. It's probably just the right amount of people. I thought the tactics were excellent.
And as we see tonight, a sense of calm appears to have returned to Columbia University. Richard Esposito, we thank you for the insight tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Maurice.
This isn't the first time, we appreciate that, but this isn't the first time Hamilton Hall has become the center of a student protest. The building was occupied during a student demonstration back in April of 1968. Students took over 5 campus buildings while protesting the multiple causes on their list there, including the Vietnam War. After several days, police moved in to remove the demonstrators. Exactly 56 years ago today, April 30th, 1968, more than 700 people were arrested back then. More than 130 were hurt. And do stay with CBS 2 for continuing coverage of the campus protests on air and online at cbsnewyork.com. Up next here tonight at 11, Lonnie Quinn tracking showers and has our first alert forecast. Don't go away. check your first alert forecast. Lonnie Quinn is here. We're looking forward to a better one tomorrow.
It's going to be better than what we see outside right now. I mean, the clouds are in place. Look at this low-level deck of cloud cover. You still see the spires on like the Empire State Building. They had some low and mid-level clouds currently. Temperature coming in at 52 degrees. That's the coldest reading of the day. High temp was 66. That is the first weather story I want to talk about. What a change. Yesterday, you were 87 degrees, a 21-degree drop between yesterday and today. We're not going to see that big warmth again until parts of the area will maybe find it on Thursday. But sit tight on all that. Currently, your temperatures are ranging from 60 in Sussex to 50 in the Hamptons, also 50 for White Plains, 52, like we said, in the city right now. A couple of light showers, but as anything heavy, depicted by the orange, the yellow, the red, as anything heavy reached our shoreline, the cooler ocean air just sort of dissolved them. So again, some light showers still exist out there. Look, here's where we saw severe weather. I'm talking in, well, let's show you what we've got. In Lehigh County, Whitehall Township, they had 1.25 inches hail reported. Then you can take a peek at Plainfield Township, where they had trees down, taking out some power lines. But I'm telling you, right on the borders of western New Jersey. Why here and not right there? Well, look at the wind flow. Here's your easterly breeze bringing in a cooler, more stable air mass. You know, here's the warmer air off to our west. So it's this more stable, cooler air that just sort of kept us below the threshold for severe storms. Those storms did move into our area, don't get me wrong. They just were below the criteria for doing, some serious damage out there. Right now, a couple of showers, and they're very light, pushing from Manhattan now into Brooklyn and Queens. Again, some showers are out there. They will persist spotty throughout the night, and by 7:30, earlier clearing than we were seeing before. So I'm optimistic about your day. Yeah, there's some cloud cover out there, especially off to the east at 7:30, but some clearing taking place. Look at your day. I mean, that's pretty nice for a day that we were questioning before. I think Wednesday looks pretty nice. You get into Thursday. Thursday could very well start off with, watch this, some fog develops. But as is the case with fog, with some warm air, some sunshine coming out, watch it burn off, and you get a pretty warm day on Thursday. It's not going to be as warm as what we saw yesterday. 76 in New York City as opposed to that 87. But look at this. You get inland, New Brunswick, Toms River, around 84 degrees. Portions of the area from East Brunswick over towards Somerville yesterday were like 89, 90. Nope, but it could be the mid-80s out there, so that's pretty warm. Here's how we'd sum everything up. Some showers are possible. They'd be on the light side. They could fade out. They will fade out overnight. A brighter day for Wednesday as you push through it. Thursday and Friday are looking pretty good. And then you get to the weekend, and there is wet weather for the weekend. Sunday looks like the better chance to see some rain. So 70 degrees tomorrow, improving after you get by some early morning showers early in the morning, and then clearing takes place. 76 looking good on Thursday, 69 Friday, 64 Saturday, 66 on Sunday, and it's the weekend that we're focusing on just because we always focus on the weekends.
That is what we do.
So Sunday looks like it's got the better chance for some rain, so I'd give a bigger thumbs up to Saturday.
All right. Thank you, Lon.
Okay,
Sports is next. The Knicks go down at the Garden. We've had reaction in just a moment.
This is CBS Sports New York, presented by Ford.
Larry's in for Otis tonight, and you leave the door open for these guys. That's when bad things happen.
All you have to do is just leave it ajar. There's